All right. Good afternoon, Southcoast. Hope everyone's doing well in New Bedford, Fall River, everywhere else where you're watching from. It's Mike Silvick, New Bedford Guide. I'm here with Dr. Hackner, who's the Chief Clinical Officer and Goodspeed Chair for Quality and Safety at Southcoast Hospitals. He's also the Chief Physician-in-Chief of Medicine for the Southcoast Physician Group. So how are you, Dr. Hackner?
Doing well. Good to be with you.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to bring you on because I think people have, concerns about vaccines or, questions about it. What's the status of that stuff? But just so people at home know, kind of give people your background in medicine.
So I'm an ICU doc. I'm trained in lung medicine. I'm a pulmonologist. I'm also an internist. And I oversee the Department of Medicine as well as all the quality services in the hospital group, infection prevention, the COVID response. So I'm very pleased to be here at Southcoast, which is really dedicated to the community in New Bedford and the surrounding towns and cities.
So let's talk vaccines, because that's like the big topic right now. So from what I understand, the last release that Southcoast Health put out, individuals 12 and older can now get it. It started off kind of late approach where it was, older people, then it went down, and now we're kind of towards, I guess, the bottom of the list, right? So individuals 12 and older.
That's correct.
Yeah. So if people, I'm gonna put a link in the comments, and what Southcoast has is some partnerships in the community, and throughout May, you can go there. It's a no charge for the vaccine. You can talk to a health professional. It's kind of important. So where do you think we stand as in progress? So I think we're getting pretty far along now, right?
Yeah, we are. And Southcoast has delivered about 92,000 vaccines to date. We've delivered at community sites, our 3 sites in New Bedford, Wareham, and Fall River. And we've also delivered now at our emergency departments, which is something new, as well as the health van, which has been to a number of sites, including senior sites, churches, fishery. So, we're doing better than we were before, but Southeastern Mass is behind some other areas in the Commonwealth as far as the rates of vaccination. The Commonwealth has really over 70% with at least 1 dose. And Southeastern Mass, Bristol, is really closer to 50%.
Yeah, if you have a question for the doctor, go ahead and throw it in. We have one here. Richard asks. He says, I took the vaccine shot Mondays and all of my shoulder to be red.
Yeah, that's called an injection site reaction. It's very common. You see that with flu and pneumonia shots. That's the sign of your immune system working. Basically, what happens is your immune cells respond. They digest all of that new information, and then they start to create antibodies. And that redness is your body responding with some blood and inflammation that's self-limited, short-lived, goes away, but you're left with good antibodies and a cell-mediated response to the virus without ever having gotten the virus. You only got a small piece that was delivered by either a piece of RNA or a small piece that was delivered inside an inactivated virus capsule in the case of the J&J.
And right now, are you doing all the shots or just the Pfizer?
We're doing all of the shots. And the Pfizer is available down to age 12, the Moderna from age 18, and the J&J from age 18. The J&J is the one shot, one and done. It's very safe. The Moderna and the Pfizer are the mRNA 2-shot vaccines, which are also very safe, but you do need to return at 21 days or later for Pfizer, 28 days or later for Moderna.
Yeah, I'm doing the Moderna. I get my second shot this Sunday. They told me maybe you can help with some tips. They told me just drink a lot of water a few hours before you show up. Is that something that's beneficial? Any other tips?
Yeah, I think having a reasonable amount of water, staying hydrated is good, because it's not uncommon to have either a low grade fever or a little bit of this mild inflammatory reaction as your body kicks in. It's not a good idea to take Advil or Tylenol before, but if you have to have it, a day later, not a problem.
Now, a lot of people ask, and this is kind of, they're going to open up the state on May 29th. And big thing we were pushed last year and everyone's curious about is when do you reach herd immunity? Is that something that's possible? Is that something that is different for everything? And what do you think it is for COVID?
So there's a lot of debate on the threshold. Folks want to be in the 70s to 80s percentage wise. And, at that level, together with folks who are masking, who are immunosuppressed, and folks who are cautious about being around folks who are ill, you can really control the spread of virus. But we don't know that exact number. What's interesting is that these three vaccines are some of the most effective and safe vaccines that we give. So in other situations, we've wanted even higher numbers. And with vaccines in the 90+% effectiveness or efficacy as far as preventing disease, preventing harm, hospitalized patients, we just don't know that exact number. We know there's been about a 5% increase by going from 16 or 18 down to 12 as far as the potential population. And hopefully when Moderna and Pfizer are approved for younger individuals, we'll get another 5% boost in terms of the population that's eligible. But the big boost will probably come when private employers say, I need to keep my staff safe. I need to keep my customers safe. And we're going to recommend that everyone be vaccinated. And we're seeing that around the country.
Do you think something like this is going to kind of like we get a flu shot every year? You think this is kind of be like an annual thing?
Yeah, I do.
So I got another, Nancy has a concern. She says, I have severe allergies to food, medication, and environmental. I'm extremely nervous about getting the shot. What would you advise her?
So it's really important to distinguish allergies that result in what's called anaphylaxis, meaning low blood pressure, the airway closing down, difficulty breathing, severe swelling of the lips, versus allergies that may cause other things, such as a mild rash or even some GI tolerance. And so I really encourage folks to talk that over with their doctor. And if someone does have any airway related issues, any anaphylaxis, you really need to speak to an immunologist, an allergist. In many cases, our recommendation is no, it's not worth the risk if you've had anaphylaxis to a vaccine. In some cases, you've had a reaction not to a vaccine, you've tolerated vaccines, but it's a known entity like a bee sting. So in those situations, the details really do matter. And please consult your doctor and then engage in the shared decision-making on what's the safest thing to do.
So Doreen asked, can we request a specific vaccine? And if yes, where? Is that something you just kind of call to one of the clinics you want to go and see what they have?
So we typically have one vaccine at each clinic on each day. And that's a safety mechanism so that we get the right dose to the right patient and the handling and instructions are the same each day. However, we do post which vaccines we're using at each clinic. And so it is possible for someone who would prefer one versus another to go to that clinic that day. So I will give a heads up on our van, where folks often only want one shot and to be one and done. We tend to use J&J. And there's another reason as well. It's easier to transport, doesn't require a deep freeze. But in our bigger clinics, say at Vanity Fair in Dartmouth, or the City Hall in Wareham, or at the Liberal Center in Fall River, we use potentially any of the three, but mostly Pfizer and Moderna.
Yeah, if you have any questions for the doc, just throw them in the comments and I'll throw them out. So I want to move on. So I know I would say it's probably been the toughest year ever in healthcare. Like there was so much going on last year. We all remember how tough it was, especially for nurses and doctors, right? Because it's almost like you're in a war zone, people coming in the hospitals. But we're in a much better place right now, would you say? And what's like, what would you say the status is now compared to last year? And what's the morale of the hospital?
So let me first give you a quick status update. We had a time when roughly 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 5 folks being tested were coming back with COVID. We're now at a time where at our hospitals, we're at about 1 out of 33. And the state as a whole is about 1 out of 100 are coming back when they're tested. So that's improving. We also know from some testing of wastewater to the north that the numbers of viruses in the wastewater is declining. And that predicts about a week or two into the future what things will look like. Hospitalized patients are now in the mid-20s. Around New Year's, they were in excess of 150. And we had, almost as high, but not quite as high back in May of 2020. So we're definitely doing better. But in order for us to be truly safe and protect vulnerable folks, including children and folks who can't get vaccine, folks need to try and get vaccinated. It's well worth it.
Yeah. And what about, so like, I think I'll say that I'm not a doctor or a nurse, but what's the morale like in the hospital though for the staff?
Oh, yes, that was your other question. The morale is actually very strong. In the beginning, everyone was scared, to be perfectly honest. We had hospitalists, intensivists, specialists, nurses, ED folks scared. But folks worked through that with good, safe protocols by sharing with other hospitals and systems across the Commonwealth and Rhode Island, and by working together, providing support to one another, and then developed a great deal of resilience during this period. I think the spirit was already there, but folks learned how to manage the risk. And so folks are very confident that we have safe environments. They're confident about providing both COVID and non-COVID care to the community. In a funny sense, it's caused a rededication of our mission as we've seen the impact of our work together on the community.
Yeah, I think it takes a special person to be in the hospital, having to work with people unvaccinated, then the first people to get vaccinated. So you're working around people, you're saving lives without a vaccine. And then, there's questions like, oh my God, there's new vaccines here. What do we do? And the nurses and doctors are the first to step up on that. So it's definitely appreciated. I want to move on. So you guys got a pretty good, it's an annual thing that comes out, and for 3 years in a row, Newsweek has named Charlotte Memorial, St. Luke's, and Toby to be the list best hospitals in the world. What does that recognition mean to someone like you and the folks at the hospital group?
We very much appreciate it. Newsweek has done that. There's another organization out of Brookline that ranks hospitals based on its mission for the community as well as outcomes, called the Loan Organization, a not-for-profit. And we received an A+ grade on the loan index as well. Our outcomes at Southcoast are excellent. And we need to continue to dedicate ourselves to providing the best for the community. There's a great deal of need in the community. This past year, there's been a great deal of disruption and loss in the community, both of lives and in terms of the disease, but also economic loss in the community. So the recognition for what we're doing means a lot to us, but we're not resting on our laurels. We've got to continually, daily live up to that and make sure that we serve the community. We're here for that. That's what drives us every day.
Yeah, there's tens of thousands of hospitals around the world. 334 were named the best in the United States, 11 in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So it's a pretty good good list to be on. So I just want to close with this, doctor. So if people are out there still thinking they don't, they haven't got their vaccine yet, they have the opportunity to, but they're a little skeptical, what would you tell them?
Well, discuss it. Discuss it with your doctors and other providers. Reach out to us if you're on the fence. We'd be happy to speak with you. Look at the incredible safety that we've observed for all the vaccines. We have, it's almost like landing on the moon, what we've seen in terms of the achievements with vaccines. The United States went from the back of the pack as far as performance in COVID to leading with regard to vaccines and preventing future harm. So, I understand the fear. We also understand the missteps that have occurred in prior generations with prior healthcare situations. But this is not one of those. This is one of those situations where we have some of the safest vaccines and a remarkable number of folks who have safely received them. So it's okay to be scared at first and ask questions, but I think you'll find as you discuss that it's really safe, and you can make a contribution to your community just by getting the shot.
I think it's amazing when our country or the world puts their effort and resources behind something like this, kind of like a mission to the moon or Mars kind of thing. I feel like we should pick one disease and do this every single year, but that's a whole nother topic we'll have to talk someday. But so I appreciate your time. This was Dr. Hackner. He's the Chief Clinical Officer at Southcoast Hospital Group. Really appreciate your time and opinions.
Well, appreciate you spreading the good word. Thank you very much, and be safe, folks.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. We'll bring more people like the doctor on to kind of educate people on the vaccine and healthcare in the future.